David Reed wiped the sweat from his forehead as he guided his cargo ship through the docking sequence. Helix 7 stretched out before him like a giant metal flower, its petals made of landing bays and merchant halls. 3 months of flying through empty space had left him tired and ready for some real food. His ship groaned as the magnetic clamps locked into place. Boots meowed from her carrier behind his seat. The gray tabby had been complaining for the last hour, probably smelling the recycled air of the station through the vents. David turned and opened the carrier door. The cat immediately jumped out and stretched, her white paws flexing as she arched her back. "Yeah, I know. Long trip." David scratched behind her ears. Boots purred and rubbed against his hand. He had learned the hard way that leaving Boots alone on the ship was a mistake. Last time, she had somehow opened 3 storage compartments and knocked over his entire collection of coffee packets. The mess took 2 days to clean, so now she came with him even if other species thought it was strange. The cargo bay doors opened with a hiss. David clipped a small tracking collar on Boots and let her walk beside him. She trotted along, tail high, as if she owned the entire station. The merchant district was already busy. Aliens of every shape and size moved between stalls, haggling over prices and examining goods. A Prelian merchant spotted them first. His reptilian face twisted into what David had learned was their version of a smile. 2 other Prelians stood beside him, all 3 wearing expensive trade robes. "Look, brothers, a human brings his food animal into the market," the first one said. His translator made his voice sound raspy and amused. David felt his jaw tighten but kept walking. Boots continued beside him, completely unconcerned. "Vess perhaps had escaped from his kitchen," another Prelian added. This one was shorter with darker scales. "Should we tell him before it runs away?" The third Prelian laughed, a sound like stones grinding together. No, let us see what other strange habits humans have. Maybe next he will bring his waste recycler for a walk." Other merchants started to notice. A group of tall, thin aliens with too many joints in their arms pointed at Boots and chattered in high-pitched voices. An insectoid creature with multiple eyes leaned down to examine the cat more closely. Boots hissed and the insectoid jerked back. "Careful, Wren," Vess called out. "The tiny predator might nibble your antenna." The insectoid, apparently named Wren, clicked his mandibles in what might have been embarrassment. He wore a security uniform with the station symbol on the chest. His multiple eyes focused on David. "Human, you bring livestock into common trading area." "This is not proper," Wren said. His translator gave him a buzzing quality to his words. "She's not livestock," David replied, setting down his equipment case. "She's a pet. A companion animal." Silence spread through the nearby crowd. Several aliens exchanged confused looks. "Companion?" Vess stepped closer, his reptilian eyes narrowing. "You mean this creature serves no function? It does not guard, does not carry loads, does not produce resources? She keeps me company." "That's function enough," David said. More laughter from the Prelians. The one called Malik shook his head. "We have war beasts bred on our homeworld. Creatures twice the height of a human, with jaws that can crush steel. They protect our ships and fight our enemies. That is a proper companion for space travel." "I have seen the Drellian shockhounds," another alien added. This one covered in blue fur. They can detect radiation leaks and sense danger before any scanner. They earn their place on a ship. "And this ball of fur does what?" Vess leaned down, studying Boots with obvious amusement. "Does it warm your lap? Does it make pleasant sounds?" "Both, actually," David said. He was done with this conversation. He needed to find his trade contacts and offload his cargo. Boots sat down and began washing her face with one paw, completely ignoring the crowd of aliens staring at her. Several of them pulled out recording devices, capturing images of the small Earth cat. David could already imagine the galactic network posts. "Stupid human brings useless furball to space station." That would be good for business. "Attention merchants, please make space for Tor's cargo transport," a voice announced over the station speakers. The crowd shifted as a large hovering platform moved through, loaded with containers. David used the distraction to move toward his meeting point. Boots followed, her bell tinkling softly. Behind him he heard more laughter and comments. Let them laugh. They didn't understand and probably never would. Earth animals weren't tools or weapons, they were family. Wren buzzed after him, his 6 legs clicking on the metal floor. "Human David Reed, I must still file report about unauthorized animal. Station regulations require all non-sapient creatures to be declared and kept in appropriate containment." "She's contained," David said, pointing to the tracker collar. That has a range limiter. She can't go more than 50 meters from my position. The security officer's antennae twitched. This isn't acceptable. But many species find predator animals disturbing. Your creature has forward-facing eyes and retractable claws. These are clear predator traits. David almost laughed. If only Wren knew that cats were actually one of Earth's most efficient killers, responsible for hunting thousands of species into extinction in some regions. But Boots was only 4 kilograms of fur and attitude. She barely qualified as dangerous by human standards. I'll keep her close, David promised. We're just here to trade and resupply. Then we're gone. Wren seemed to accept this. He buzzed something into his communication device and skittered away. David finally reached his contact point, a small office wedged between a food stall and a parts dealer. Boots jumped onto the desk and immediately found a spot in a beam of artificial sunlight coming through the window. The trade negotiations took 2 hours. David sold his mineral cargo for a decent price and arranged for supplies. Through the window, he could still see aliens passing by, many pausing to stare at the cat sleeping on the desk. Some took pictures. Others made gestures he didn't understand. By the time David finished his business, Boots had become something of a station attraction. A small crowd had gathered outside the office, watching the cat sleep. When David picked her up, she yawned, showing her tiny fangs, and several aliens actually stepped back. Bess appeared again, this time with his 2 brothers. Human, we did not mean offense earlier. Your companionship customs are simply strange to us. Perhaps you would like to see real working animals? Our war beasts are in Bay 17. Very impressive. Maybe another time, David said. He just wanted to get back to his ship and rest. As he walked away, he heard Malik say to Vess, 5 credits says that little creature dies before their next jump. Space is too dangerous for such weak things. David didn't bother responding. Boots purred against his chest, already falling back asleep. They had survived this long together. They would survive a lot longer. The emergency siren started without warning. David had just finished loading supplies onto his cargo cart when the entire merchant district turned red. Flashing lights painted everything in shades of crimson, while a harsh alarm screamed through speakers mounted on every wall. Boots' ears flattened against her head. She had been exploring a stack of shipping containers, but now darted back to David's side, pressing against his leg. All around them, aliens stopped what they were doing. Some froze in place while others immediately ran toward their ships. All personnel, this is not a drill. Wren's voice crackled through the speakers. His usual buzzing tone carried an edge of panic. We have a containment breach in exotic creature holding. Repeat, containment breach. Species designation Silkfang. All civilians must shelter in place immediately. David looked around for the nearest secure room. The merchant district had several emergency shelters marked with bright yellow symbols. He grabbed Boots and his supply cart, heading for the closest one. Other beings had the same idea. A crowd formed quickly, pushing toward the shelter entrance. Move, move. A 4-armed alien shoved past David, nearly knocking him over. Silkfang hunts anything with heat signature. The shelter door was already half closed when David reached it. Station protocol demanded sealed compartments during creature breaches. He squeezed through just as the heavy blast door began its final descent. 6 other beings made it inside with him. The door slammed shut with a metallic boom that echoed through the small space. Inside, emergency lighting cast everything in dim blue. The shelter was a storage corridor about 20 meters long and 3 meters wide. Boxes and equipment lined both walls. No windows, 1 door, and ventilation grates near the ceiling. David set Boots down but kept close to her. What is Silkfang? David asked the room. A Prelian against the far wall answered. It was Malik, one of Vess's brothers from earlier. His scales had gone pale, almost white. Deathworld predator from Krell 9. They hunt by vibration and heat. Armor like starship plating. Venom that dissolves tissue. Station acquired one for the exotic creature market. Why would anyone want to buy that? David asked. Rich collectors, Malik said. His voice shook. Some beings like to own dangerous things. Makes them feel powerful. A small alien near the door began to whimper. They looked young, maybe a child. Their parent, a Pollen with silver skin and large black eyes, tried to comfort them. Quiet, Civ, we are safe in here. Are we? Another voice asked. This one belonged to a trader David recognized from the merchant district. A being covered in thick fur with hands that had too many fingers. These corridors connect to main ventilation. Silkfangs are small enough to fit through commercial air systems. That statement made everyone look up at the ventilation grates. The blue emergency lights flickered across the metal slats. For several long seconds, nobody moved. Then they heard it. A scratching sound, distant but distinct. Metal on metal. Something moving through the ducts above them. Boots' entire body went rigid. Her ears swiveled toward the ceiling, tracking the sound. Her pupils dilated until her eyes were almost completely black. She crouched low, weight balanced on all four paws. David had seen this before, usually right before she attacked a toy or caught a bug. "Everyone stay quiet," Malik whispered. "Maybe it will pass by." The scratching grew louder. Now they could hear breathing, heavy and wet, echoing through the vents. Something big was moving up there. Something that knew they were here. A map display on the wall showed the station layout. David studied it quickly. This corridor connected to 3 different sections. 2 blast doors behind them, 1 in front. All sealed during emergency protocol. No way out until station security gave the all clear. "How long until security teams can neutralize it?" David asked quietly. 15 minutes, maybe 20, the furry trader answered. "They need to locate it first." "Silkfangs move fast. Very fast. Human, is your food animal scared?" Malik asked, looking at Boots. It looked strange. David glanced down. Boots wasn't scared. He knew scared cats. This was different. Her tail lashed back and forth in short, controlled movements. Her whiskers pointed forward. "She was hunting. She's not scared," David said. The scratching stopped. For 3 heartbeats, there was perfect silence. Then a ventilation grate near the ceiling exploded inward. Metal shards scattered across the corridor as something massive forced its way through the opening. The Silkfang dropped to the floor in a controlled fall, landing on 6 legs that absorbed the impact. It was enormous, easily 3 meters long from nose to tail. Black armor plates covered its body, overlapping like scales but thicker. 4 eyes glowed yellow in the emergency lighting. Its mouth opened, revealing rows of curved fangs dripping with clear venom. The pollen child screamed. The parent grabbed Civ and pulled them back, but they were too slow. The Silkfang's head turned toward the sound with mechanical precision. Its legs coiled, preparing to spring. Malik pulled out a small plasma pistol from his robes. His hands shook so badly he could barely aim. He fired. The bright blue bolt went wide, hitting the wall and leaving a scorched mark. The Silkfang ignored him, focused entirely on the small pollen child. David's muscles locked. He wanted to move, wanted to help, but his body wouldn't respond. Everything happened too fast. The creature launched itself forward, claws extended, mouth wide. It covered the distance in less than a second. Boots moved faster. The cat left David's side in a gray blur. She intercepted the Silkfang mid-leap, hitting it from the side. The impact knocked the creature off course. It crashed into a stack of boxes, sending supplies flying. The Silkfang twisted, trying to locate this new threat. Boots was already on its back. Her claws found gaps between the armor plates, digging in deep. The Silkfang shrieked, a sound like tearing metal. It spun in a circle, trying to shake her off. Boots held on, her claws locked in place. The creature slammed itself against the wall. Once, twice, 3 times. Boxes shattered. Metal dented. Boots released one paw and raked it across the Silkfang's eyes. The creature's shriek became a roar of pain. David tried to move forward, tried to help, but Malik grabbed his arm. "You cannot. Too dangerous." The Silkfang rolled onto its back, trying to crush Boots against the floor. The cat released her hold and dropped away, landing on her feet. The creature scrambled upright, yellow eyes now streaming dark fluid. Half blind and furious, it charged. Boots went low, sliding under the attack. As the Silkfang passed over her, she leaped straight up. Her jaws clamped onto the creature's throat right where the armor plates met. Her back claws kicked rapidly, finding soft tissue between the plating. The Silkfang thrashed wildly, crashing through the corridor like a storm. Blood splattered the walls, dark, almost black. The creature's movements became jerky, uncoordinated. It made horrible gasping sounds. Boots held on with grim determination, her small body rigid. The Silkfang's legs gave out. It collapsed onto its side, still twitching. Boots released her grip and backed away, watching carefully. The creature shuddered once more, then went still. Its yellow eyes faded to gray. The corridor fell silent except for heavy breathing. 6 aliens stared at the dead Silkfang and the small gray cat. Boots sat down and began cleaning blood from her face with one paw, as calm as if she had just finished a nap. David finally found his voice. "Boots?" The cat looked at him and meowed. Her tail swished once, then she went back to grooming. completely unconcerned with the massive corpse beside her. Malik's plasma pistol clattered to the floor. His scales had gone from pale to transparent. "That is impossible," he whispered. "That thing weighs 4 kilograms. Maybe less." The pollen parent clutched their child tight, staring at Boots with wide eyes. "It saved Civ. The tiny predator saved my child." "Not so tiny," the furry trader said quietly. He had pressed himself against the far wall, as far from Boots as possible. "Not tiny at all." David walked slowly to Boots and picked her up. She purred and rubbed her face against his hand, leaving small smears of blood. Her heart beat fast but steady under his fingers. No injuries that he could see, just some scratches that barely broke skin. "Good girl," David whispered. "Good girl." The emergency lights flickered back to normal white. A moment later, Wren's voice came through the speakers. "Security teams approaching breach area. All civilians remain in shelter until cleared. They would have questions. A lot of questions." David looked at the dead Silkfang, then at the cat purring in his arms. "Let them ask. The answers might surprise them." Blood pooled beneath the Silkfang's body, spreading slowly across the metal floor. David kept his eyes on the creature, waiting for any sign of movement. Dead things on Earth sometimes weren't as dead as they looked. But this one seemed genuinely finished. Its armor plates had lost their shine, and the yellow glow in its eyes had faded completely. Boots continued washing herself, paying no attention to the alien corpse. She licked her paws and rubbed them over her ears, cleaning away the dark blood. Some of her white fur had turned brown, but she seemed determined to fix that problem. The pollen parent, Aurel, still held young Civ close. The child had stopped screaming but trembled against their parent's chest. Aurel's large black eyes never left Boots. "I do not understand," Aurel said softly. "That creature, your companion, it is so small." "Size doesn't always matter," David replied, checking Boots over carefully. He found a few shallow scratches on her side, but nothing serious. The Silkfang's claws had barely touched her. Cats are ambush hunters. Quick reflexes, sharp claws, powerful bite for their size. Malik slowly approached the dead Silkfang, keeping his distance. He prodded it with his foot, ready to jump back. When nothing happened, he knelt down for a closer look. His translator device clicked several times before he spoke. "The throat wounds are precise. It knew exactly where to strike. How does such a small creature possess this knowledge?" "Evolution," David said. "Millions of years of hunting. Cats developed on a world with thousands of predator species. They had to be good at killing to survive." The furry trader made a sound that might have been disagreement or fear. "Your world breeds only predators?" "No, lots of prey animals too. But yeah, Earth has a lot of species that hunt and kill. Cats, dogs, bears, wolves, eagles, snakes. The list goes on." David set Boots down so she could finish grooming. Humans domesticated some of them, kept them as companions or work animals. "Madness," Malik said. His scales had started to regain some color. "You share your living spaces with creatures designed to kill?" David shrugged. "When you put it that way, it sounds worse than it is. Most of them are friendly once you build trust. Boots wouldn't hurt me or anyone I care about. But threats? Different story." The door controls beeped. Everyone tensed. Then a voice came through the speaker mounted beside the blast door. "This is Security Team Leader Dren. We are entering the shelter. Please move away from the door." The heavy door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. 5 security officers entered, all wearing full armor and carrying weapons. Wren led them, his multiple eyes scanning the room quickly. They all stopped when they saw the dead Silkfang. "By the void," Dren said. He was a tall being with gray skin and 4 arms. 2 of those arms held large rifles. "You killed it?" "The cat did," Malik said, pointing at Boots, the human's food animal. All 5 security officers looked at Boots. She sat in a patch of emergency lighting, one leg stuck up in the air while she cleaned her stomach. She paused, looked at the new arrivals, then went back to grooming. Wren approached the Silkfang carefully. He pulled out a scanner and ran it over the body. The device beeped several times. "Confirmed dead. Cause of death appears to be puncture wounds to the jugular vein and asphyxiation. Time of death approximately 4 minutes ago." He looked at David. "Your companion did this?" "Yes," David said simply. "That is not possible," Dren said flatly. "Silkfangs are Class 7 threats. They require specialized equipment and trained combat teams to neutralize safely. A single small mammal cannot defeat one." "Check the security footage then," the furry trader suggested. We all witnessed it. The small predator moved like lightning. The Silkfang never had a chance. Dren tapped commands into a wrist device. A holographic screen appeared, showing the corridor from a camera angle near the ceiling. Everyone watched in silence as the recording played. The Silkfang bursting through the vent, Boots launching herself at it. The brief violent struggle, the creature's death. When it finished, nobody spoke for several seconds. Dren replayed it twice more, studying every detail. The attack patterns are sophisticated, he said slowly. It targets vulnerable areas with precision. It avoids the creature's primary weapons. It maintains control throughout the engagement despite size disadvantage. It is a trained war beast after all, Ren said. The human lied about its purpose. No, David said firmly. She's not trained for combat. That's just instinct, natural hunting behavior. Natural? Ren's antennae twitched rapidly. You claim this is normal behavior for the species? For cats, yeah. They're obligate carnivores. Hunting is built into them at a genetic level. Boots probably weighs about 4 kilos, but she's descended from wild cats that took down prey much larger than themselves. Birds, rabbits, even young deer sometimes. Aurel stepped forward, still holding Civ. Regardless of explanations, this creature saved my child's life. The Silkfang would have killed Civ if not for the intervention. I owe the human and his companion a blood debt. I don't need, David started. A blood debt cannot be refused, Aurel interrupted. It is our way. You and your companion have earned the protection and assistance of House Aurel. This is a serious matter. Malik had been quiet, studying Boots with renewed interest. Now he spoke, his voice thoughtful. Human David, I apologize for my words earlier. We mocked your companion. We called it useless, weak. We were very wrong. You didn't know, David said. He was ready for this conversation to be over. Look, can we just get medical clearance and go? We've had a long day. Dren shook his head. There will be an investigation. Witness statements, medical examinations, property damage assessments. You will need to remain on station for at least 2 cycles. David sighed. Fine, can someone at least bring me a towel? Boots needs cleaning properly. I can provide cleaning supplies, Ren said. He pulled out a small cloth from a pouch on his armor. But human, you should understand. Word of this incident will spread. Very quickly. Your companion just killed a Class 7 threat with no weapons, no armor, no assistance. Other beings will hear about this. Some will be curious. Others will be frightened. Why frightened? David asked. She's just a cat. Exactly, Ren said. His antennae pointed directly at David. Just a cat. A common animal from your world. If this is what you consider normal, what other creatures do humans live among? What else do you consider harmless? That question hung in the air. David hadn't really thought about it from their perspective. To them, Earth must seem like a nightmare world. Humans sharing their homes with animals that could kill predators designed for death worlds. It probably didn't make sense to species that kept clear boundaries between themselves and dangerous creatures. Boots finished grooming and walked over to David, rubbing against his leg. She meowed, probably asking for food. Fighting giant monsters apparently built up an appetite. David picked her up and accepted the cloth from Ren, wiping away the remaining blood stains. For what it's worth, David said, most cats are indoor pets. They spend their days sleeping, eating, and playing. Fighting things like Silkfangs isn't normal for them either. Boots just did what came naturally when someone was in danger. Natural, Malik repeated. He looked at his brother Vess, who had entered with additional security personnel. Brother, the humans are either the most foolish species in the galaxy or the most brave. I cannot decide which. Perhaps both, Vess said. He approached David slowly, keeping his eyes on Boots. Human, I too apologize for my disrespect. Your companion has earned respect. You have shown us that humans understand strength in ways we do not. More security teams arrived to remove the Silkfang's body. They worked carefully, treating it like an explosive device that might detonate. Medical personnel came next, scanning everyone for injuries or contamination. Boots submitted to a medical scan with bad grace hissing at the scanning device. The medical technician, a being with crystalline skin, studied the results. The feline is uninjured beyond superficial scratches. Heart rate elevated but returning to normal. No venom exposure detected. Remarkable. She's tough, David agreed. Tough, the technician repeated, testing the word. Yes, that is accurate. Very tough for such a small creature. They spent another hour in the corridor while security documented everything. Boots fell asleep in David's arms, exhausted from the fight. She snored softly, a peaceful sound that seemed impossible given what had just happened. Finally, Dren cleared them to leave. You can return to your ship, Human David. We will contact you when we need additional statements. Keep your communication device active. David nodded and headed for his ship carrying boots and his supply cart. Behind him, he heard Vess talking to Malik. We must learn more about Earth, a world that produces such creatures and humans who treat them as family. This changes everything we thought we knew. Let them think about it. David had supplies to store and a cat to feed. Everything else could wait. David had just finished feeding Boots when his communication device started buzzing. He glanced at the screen and groaned. 27 new messages. He had been back on his ship for less than an hour. Word traveled fast. The first message was from a news service requesting an interview. The second was from a xenobiology research institute asking if they could study Boots. The third was someone offering to buy her for an amount of credits that made David's eyes widen. He deleted all three without responding. Boots crunched through her food, unbothered by her newfound fame. She had eaten half her portion when someone knocked on the ship's outer door. David checked the security camera and saw Orel standing there with young Civ. The pollen carried a large container wrapped in cloth. David opened the door. Hello again. Human David, Orel said formally. I have come to properly thank you and your companion. May I enter? Sure, David stepped aside. Orel and Civ entered, looking around the small cargo ship with interest. It wasn't much, just a functional freighter with living quarters attached. Boots ignored them, focused on her meal. Orel set the container on the table. This is traditional pollen gratitude gift. Inside are foods from our homeworld, preserved for space travel. Also data files containing information about our culture and history. These are valuable to us. You don't have to, David started. I do, Orel said firmly. Civ would be dead without your companion's intervention. Blood debt must be honored. Please accept. Civ, who had been hiding behind Orel, peeked out and looked at Boots. The young pollen made a soft chirping sound. Is the fierce one still dangerous? Only if you're a threat, David said. Otherwise, she's friendly. Want to pet her? Civ looked uncertain but stepped forward slowly. David guided the small hand to Boots's head. The cat paused eating long enough to sniff the child's fingers, then resumed her meal. Civ giggled, a musical sound, and gently stroked the soft fur. It is warm, Civ said with wonder. And the sound it makes, the rumbling. What is that? Purring, David explained. Means she's content and happy. Happy, Civ repeated. It is happy after fighting the monster? Cats don't hold on to stress, David said. She did what needed doing, now she's moved on. That's how they are. Orel watched the interaction carefully. Human David, I must ask, are all Earth creatures like this one, capable of great violence yet peaceful by choice? David considered the question. Not all, but many. Dogs are probably the best example. They're descendants of wolves, pack hunters that could easily hurt people, but thousands of years of living with humans made them loyal and gentle. They still have the instincts, still have the teeth and strength, but they choose not to use them against their family. Choice. Orel said thoughtfully. This concept is important to humans? Very important. We value beings who have the capacity for violence but choose peace. There's no honor in being harmless because you're weak. The honor comes from being strong enough to hurt others but deciding not to. Civ had stopped petting Boots and was now watching David with the same intensity as Orel. Are humans strong like the fierce one? David smiled. In some ways, we're persistence hunters. On Earth, humans could chase prey for hours, sometimes days. We're not the fastest or strongest, but we don't quit. We keep going until we achieve our goal. Terrifying, Orel said quietly. I understand now why your species brings predators as companions. You recognize kinship with them. Before David could respond, his communication device buzzed again. This time it was Ren. Human David, I am outside your ship. We need to discuss situation. David let him in. The security officer entered with his usual clicking gait, his multiple eyes taking in everything. He nodded respectfully to Orel and Civ before turning to David. Station administration has reviewed incident. No charges against you or your companion. Self-defense ruling clear. However, there are complications. What kind of complications? David asked. Ren shifted his weight. 3 news organizations want interviews. 7 research institutions want to study your companion. 12 traders have offered to purchase it. Station administration is concerned about disruption to normal operations, and there have been 12 formal complaints. Complaints about what? About allowing dangerous predators on station, Wren explained. Several species representatives claim your companion represents unacceptable risk to station safety. They want new regulations prohibiting Earth animals from public areas. David felt anger building but kept his voice calm. Boots saved lives today. If she hadn't been here, Civ would be dead. I know this, Wren said. I have filed official reports stating exactly that. But fear is not logical. Some beings see only that small creature killed Class 7 threat. They extrapolate. If small companion animal is so dangerous, what about humans themselves? What about other Earth creatures? So what happens now? David asked. Station Council meets tomorrow to discuss new security protocols. You are requested to attend and provide testimony. Bring your companion. They want to see it for themselves. Wren paused. Human David, I advise honesty. Do not minimize what your companion is capable of. They will respect truth more than reassurance. After Wren left, Orel spoke quietly. The council will be divided. Some will see benefit of alliance with humans. Others will see only threat. You should prepare carefully for this meeting. David scratched Boots behind the ears. She had finished eating and was now grooming again, cleaning her whiskers with careful precision. She had no idea that her actions had created a diplomatic incident. Any advice? Show them respect but not submission, Orel said. Pollens value courage and honesty. So do most spacefaring species. If you try to make your companion seem less dangerous than it is, they will assume you are hiding greater threats. Better to be honest about capabilities while demonstrating control. Civ tugged on Orel's arm. Parent, can we have a fierce one too? No, small one. Our world has no such creatures, and I think perhaps that is for the best. Orel placed a hand on Civ's head. But we can be grateful they exist in this universe, protecting those who need protection. They left shortly after, promising to attend the council meeting as witnesses. David spent the rest of the evening preparing his testimony and researching the council members. 12 representatives from different species, each with their own biases and concerns. His communication device continued buzzing with messages. Most he ignored, but one caught his attention. It was from Vess, the Prelian who had mocked Boots earlier. The message was formal and brief. Human David, my brothers and I wish to speak with you before council meeting. We have proposal that may interest you. Please respond. David almost deleted it, but curiosity won. He sent a short reply agreeing to meet. Whatever they wanted, it would at least be interesting. Boots jumped onto his lap and curled up, purring loudly. David stroked her soft fur and felt some of his tension ease. Tomorrow would bring challenges. Questions about Earth, about humans, about why they chose to live alongside creatures that could kill them. He would need good answers. But tonight he had his cat, his ship, and enough supplies for the next leg of his journey. That was enough. The galaxy could sort out its feelings about Earth animals tomorrow. Right now all that mattered was this moment of peace. Boots yawned, showing her tiny fangs, and closed her eyes. Within minutes she was asleep, completely trusting. That trust, David thought, was what the other species didn't understand. Boots was deadly when needed, but she had chosen David as family. That choice meant everything. His communication device buzzed one more time. Another research institute requesting permission to study Boots. David turned the device off. No more interruptions tonight. Let them wait. Let them wonder. Let them realize that humans and their companions weren't going anywhere. The ship's systems hummed quietly around him. Outside, Helix 7 continued its endless rotation. Thousands of beings going about their business. Some of them probably talking about the small gray cat that killed a Silkfang. Some probably afraid. Others curious. David didn't care what they thought. He cared about doing his job, keeping his ship running, and taking care of Boots. Everything else was just noise. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought. He would face it the same way he always did, with honesty, patience, and a cat by his side. Boots twitched in her sleep, probably dreaming. David wondered what cats dreamed about. Hunting, maybe, or warm spots in the sun, or perhaps nothing at all. Just the peaceful darkness of deep sleep. Whatever it was, she seemed content. That contentment spread to David. Despite everything, despite the complications and the attention and the upcoming council meeting, he felt okay. More than okay. He felt proud. Proud of Boots for protecting someone in danger. Proud of himself for raising a cat who knew the difference between threat and friend. The galaxy would learn eventually. Humans weren't dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because they understood violence and chose peace. They kept predators as family because they recognized the value in strength tempered by loyalty. These weren't weaknesses. They were strengths that other species had yet to discover. David closed his eyes and let himself relax. Tomorrow would take care of itself. The meeting with Vess and his brothers took place in a private conference room near the docking bays. David arrived with Boots in her carrier, unsure what to expect. 3 Prelians waited inside, their scales gleaming under the bright lights. Vess stood first, performing what David recognized as a Prelian gesture of respect. His brothers Malik and Tor followed. Human David, thank you for coming. Please sit. David set the carrier on the table and opened it. Boots emerged, stretched, and immediately began exploring the room. The 3 Prelians watched her with what might have been nervousness. What did you want to discuss? David asked. An apology first, Vess said. We were foolish and disrespectful. We judged without understanding. This is poor behavior for merchants who claim to know the galaxy. Already forgiven, David said. You weren't the only ones who thought Boots was useless. Perhaps, but we were loudest, Malik added. Now we wish to learn. We have spent the night researching Earth through available databases. What we found troubles and fascinates us in equal measure. Tor activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air, a dog, a horse, a parrot, a snake. These are all Earth creatures kept by humans as companions? Some of them, yeah. Dogs and cats are most common. Horses are less common now, but historically important. Some people keep birds, reptiles, even insects. Insects, Vess repeated. Creatures with no intelligence, yet humans care for them. Intelligence isn't always the point, David explained. People keep animals for lots of reasons. Companionship, sure, but also beauty, interest, or just because they enjoy caring for another living thing. Malik pulled up another image. This one showed a large dog, possibly a German shepherd. This creature, what is its purpose? Dogs were originally bred from wolves for hunting and protection. Now they're mostly companions, though some still work. Guard dogs protect property. Search dogs find lost people. Service dogs help humans with disabilities. They're versatile. Wolves, Vess said slowly. I have read about wolves. Pack hunters, highly intelligent, capable of coordinated attacks. And humans domesticated them? About 15,000 years ago, yeah. Maybe longer. The exact timeline is debated. All 3 Prelians exchanged glances. Tor spoke next. Human David, do you understand how this sounds to other species? Your people took apex predators and invited them into your homes, into your families. I guess it does sound strange when you put it that way, David admitted, but it worked out well for both species. Wolves got reliable food and shelter. Humans got loyal companions and helpers. Win-win. Boots had finished exploring and jumped onto David's lap. She curled up, purring contentedly. The Prelians all leaned back slightly, an unconscious response to the movement. Your companion trusts you completely, Vess observed. Yet it could harm you easily. Those claws, those teeth. We saw what they did to the Silkfang. She could, David agreed. But she won't. We have a bond. She's part of my family. Family, Malik said. This word keeps appearing in our research. Humans extend family bonds to non-human creatures. This is unusual. Most species maintain clear boundaries between themselves and animals. David scratched Boots behind the ears. Maybe that's why we've done well in space. We're used to building bridges across differences. If you can make friends with a wolf, making friends with an alien doesn't seem so hard. That observation created silence. The 3 Prelians looked at each other again, having some sort of unspoken conversation. Finally, Vess spoke. This brings us to our proposal. We wish to establish trade relationship with Earth. Specifically, we want to bring human companions to Prelia. You want to buy cats? David asked, surprised. Not buy. Partner. Vess gestured at the holographic display, which now showed images of Prelian cities. Our world is peaceful, ordered. We have no predators larger than my hand. Our people have never known true danger. We think this makes us weak. Soft, Tor added. We have technology, yes. But we have lost something important. The ability to face fear and overcome it. Your companions could teach us this, David frowned. I don't think selling Earth animals is a good idea. They need proper care, understanding of their needs. You can't just stick a cat on a spaceship and hope for the best. We know, Malik said quickly. This is why we propose cultural exchange program. Humans come to Prelia, teach us about Earth animals, help us understand how to care for them. In return, we offer technology, resources, trade agreements. Plus, Vess added, we want to learn from humans directly. Your species has qualities we lack. Adaptability, courage, the ability to bond across species lines. These are valuable in galaxy becoming more connected. David considered it. The idea had merit but also risks. I'd need to talk to Earth authorities. This isn't something I can decide alone. Of course, Vess said. We simply ask you to present our proposal. Make introduction. We will handle negotiations properly. Before David could respond, his communication device buzzed. A message from Ren. Council meeting begins in 1 hour. Please arrive early. David stood, placing Boots back in her carrier. I need to go. But send me the details of your proposal. I'll forward it to the right people. The Prelians performed their respect gesture again. As David headed for the door, Vess called out, Human David, one more thing. At council meetings, speak plainly. Do not soften truth. They need to hear reality, even if it frightens them. The council chamber was larger than David expected, a circular room with seats arranged in tiers, allowing all 12 council members to see each other. Observer seating lined one wall. Already dozens of beings filled those seats. News about the meeting had spread. Ren met David at the entrance. They are ready for you. Remember, answer questions honestly. Some council members will be hostile. Do not let this anger you. David carried Boots' carrier to the center of the room. A small platform waited there, marked with a speaker symbol. He set the carrier down and opened it. Boots emerged, looked around at all the watching eyes and yawned. A few beings in the observer section gasped. Others leaned forward for better views. The 12 council members studied Boots with varying expressions. Curiosity, fear, interest, suspicion. The council leader, a being made of what looked like living crystal, spoke first. Their voice echoed through the chamber. Human David Reed, you stand before this council to address concerns about Earth animals on Helix 7. Do you understand the purpose of this gathering? Yes, David said. You want to know if Boots and other Earth animals pose a danger to station residents. Correct. Present your case, David took a breath. Honesty, Vess had said. Truth, even if frightening. Boots is dangerous. No point pretending otherwise. She's a predator with weapons built into her body, claws that can tear flesh, teeth designed for killing, reflexes faster than most beings can track, instincts honed by millions of years of evolution. Murmurs ran through the observers. One council member, a being covered in purple scales, spoke sharply. You admit your creature is threat to station safety? I admit she's capable of violence, David corrected. That's different from being a threat. Boots has lived with me for 4 years. In that time, she's never hurt anyone who wasn't trying to hurt us first. She's gentle with children. She's patient with strangers. She saved a life yesterday. Once, another council member said. This one resembled a floating jellyfish with glowing tendrils. One act of protection does not erase potential danger. True, David agreed. But consider this, I'm dangerous too. I know how to fly a ship that could crash into this station. I carry tools that could be used as weapons. I have the knowledge to cause all kinds of problems if I wanted. But you let me dock here because you trust I won't do those things. Why is Boots different? The crystal leader tilted slightly. You are sapient. You understand consequences. Your creature acts on instinct. Not entirely, David said. Cats are smart. They learn, they adapt, they make choices. Boots chose not to attack the Silkfang until someone was in danger. She had plenty of opportunities before that. She waited until action was necessary. Aurel stood from the observer section. May I speak? The council leader nodded. Aurel approached the platform. My child lives because of the human's companion. The Silkfang would have killed Civ. Every being in that shelter knows this truth. We owe blood debt. One life saved against potential future harm, the purple-scaled council member argued. What if next time the creature attacks when not needed? Then I'll be responsible, David said firmly. Boots is my companion, my responsibility. If she causes harm without justification, blame me. But don't punish her for being what evolution made her. The jellyfish council member floated lower. Tell us, human, what other creatures does your species keep as companions? David described dogs, horses, birds, reptiles, fish. With each description, the chamber grew quieter. The observers stopped murmuring. The council members leaned forward, listening intently. Your world must be paradise of diversity, the crystal leader said finally, or nightmare of dangers. I cannot decide which. Both, David said. Earth has beautiful, peaceful areas. It also has places that will kill you in minutes if you're not careful. Humans learned to survive everywhere. We adapted. And we learned that sometimes the dangerous things aren't enemies. Sometimes they're potential friends. A new voice spoke from the council, a being David hadn't noticed before, sitting in shadows. You speak of friendship with predators.
Is this wisdom or foolishness?
Maybe both, David admitted. But it's worked for us. Dogs guard our homes and love our children. Cats keep pests away and make us laugh. Horses carried us across continents before we invented engines. These partnerships made humanity stronger. Or made you dependent on creatures you cannot fully control. The shadowed council member countered. Nobody's fully in control, David said. That's not how relationships work. Trust isn't about control. It's about understanding and respect. Boots, who had been sitting quietly during all this, suddenly meowed. The sound echoed through the chamber. Several council members flinched. Boots walked to David and rubbed against his leg, purring loudly. She's bored, David said. Probably wants dinner. It demands food from you? The purple-scaled member sounded shocked. She asks, I provide. That's our relationship. David picked up Boots. She settled in his arms, still purring. Look, I get it. Earth animals are strange to you. The idea of living with predators seems crazy. But this is normal for humans. We've been doing it for thousands of years. It's part of who we are. The council chamber fell silent again. David waited, holding Boots and wondering if he'd said too much or not enough. Finally, the crystal leader spoke. This council will deliberate. Human David Reed, you and your companion may return to your ship. We will announce our decision within one cycle. David nodded and headed for the exit. As he passed through the observer section, several beings reached out toward Boots. Some with curiosity, others with what might have been awe. Boots ignored them all, content in David's arms. Outside the chamber, Vess and his brothers waited. You did well, Vess said. Honest and direct. They will remember this. Will they ban Earth animals? David asked. Some will try, Malik said. Others will oppose. But you have shown them something important. Humans are not dangerous because they are violent. They are dangerous because they understand violence and choose peace. That's a good way to put it, David said. Tor pulled out a data pad. We have prepared formal proposal for Earth authorities. Will you forward it? David accepted the pad. I'll send it today. Can't promise anything, but I'll try. That is all we ask, Vess said. Meanwhile, we have business proposition. Would you be willing to transport specialized cargo to outer colonies? We need someone we can trust. Someone who proved themselves capable. David smiled. Send me the details. If the price is right, I'm interested. As he walked back to his ship, David felt oddly hopeful. The council might ban Earth animals. Or they might not. Either way, something had changed today. The galaxy had gotten a glimpse of what humans were really about. Not conquerors or warriors. Just people who believed that different species could build bridges instead of walls. Boots meowed again, more insistent this time. David laughed. Okay. Dinner first, saving the galaxy second. That seemed about right. 2 days passed before the council announced their decision. David spent that time doing routine maintenance on his ship and trying to ignore the constant stream of messages. Everyone wanted something. Interviews, samples of Boots' DNA, consultation fees for xenobiology papers. He deleted most of them. The call came through just as David finished replacing a faulty power coupling. Ren's voice crackled from the communication panel. Human David, Council has reached verdict. They wish to inform you personally. Can you come to administration sector? On my way, David said. He cleaned the grease off his hands and found Boots sleeping in her favorite spot near the engine core where it was warmest. Come on, girl. Time to hear our fate. The administration sector was quieter than the merchant district. Fewer crowds, more security. Everything painted in neutral grays and whites. Ren met David at the entrance and escorted him to a small office. The Crystal Council leader waited inside, along with 2 other members David recognized from the hearing. Human David Reed, the Crystal leader said. Please sit. Your companion may remain with you. David sat holding Boots in his lap. She yawned and settled against his chest. The council members watched her carefully as if expecting sudden violence. When none came, they seemed to relax slightly. The council has debated extensively, the crystal leader began. Your testimony raised important questions. Not just about Earth animals, but about humanity itself and your place in the galactic community. And, David asked, we have decided not to ban Earth animals from Helix 7, the crystal leader said. However, new protocols will be established. All companion animals must be registered. Owners must demonstrate control and accept full responsibility for their companions' actions. Certain species, like your boots, will require additional permits. David let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. That's fair. I can work with that. There is more, the purple-scaled council member said. Your presence here and your companions' actions have created significant interest. 3 species representatives have formally requested information about Earth and human culture. 7 research institutions want to study human-animal bonds, and multiple trade organizations see potential for new partnerships. I'm just a cargo hauler, David said. I'm not qualified for diplomatic work. Perhaps not, the Jellyfish Council member said. But you have started something. Whether you intended to or not, you have changed how other species view humanity. Before, humans were simply another spacefaring race. Interesting but not particularly notable. Now they are the species that befriends predators, the beings who build trust across impossible divides. This changes everything. The crystal leader shifted forward. We have sent formal communication to Earth government. We recommend establishing embassy here on Helix 7, cultural exchange programs, trade agreements, scientific cooperation. Humanity has much to teach us about coexistence. David stroked Boots's fur, processing this information. One cat killing a Silkfang had somehow become a diplomatic event. He wasn't sure how to feel about that. What do you want from me specifically? Nothing you do not wish to give, the crystal leader said. But if you are willing, we would like you to serve as informal consultant. Help us understand human perspective on companion animals, trust, and interspecies bonds. Paid position, of course. You could continue your cargo work and consult when needed. I'll think about it, David said. It was a better outcome than he'd hoped for. No ban on Earth animals meant he and Boots could keep traveling together. The consultant work might even be interesting. Wren escorted David back to the docking sector. As they walked, the security officer spoke quietly. You have done good thing, human David. Many beings were afraid of Earth animals. Now they are curious instead. Curiosity is better than fear, is it? David asked. Curiosity can lead to trouble too. Yes, but it also leads to understanding, Wren said. Fear builds walls. Curiosity builds bridges. Your companions showed us that small beings can be mighty. You showed us that mighty beings can choose gentleness. These are valuable lessons. Back at his ship, David found a message from Vess. The Prelians had secured a cargo contract for him. Specialized medical supplies to an outer colony, good pay, and fast turnaround. He accepted immediately. Normal work sounded good after all the attention. He also forwarded the Prelian proposal to Earth's commercial ministry with a brief explanation. Whether anything came of it was out of his hands now. He had done what he could. That evening, David sat in his ship's small living area with Boots curled up beside him. He had pulled up Earth news feeds, curious about what was being said back home. The Silkfang incident had made headlines. Cat saves lives on space station. Earth animals impress galactic community. Humanity's secret weapon. Friendship. Some of the headlines were ridiculous, but the underlying message was consistent. Other species were taking humanity seriously in new ways. Not because humans were stronger or more advanced, but because they had mastered something most species found difficult. Building bonds across vast differences. His communication device buzzed. Another message, but this one was different. It came from someone named Henry Park, who identified himself as a fellow cargo hauler based out of Europa Station. The message read, Hey David, saw the news about your cat. Thought you should know I've got a dog on my ship, German Shepherd mix named Scout. Been getting weird looks at stations for months. Your incident changed that. Now people ask about her with interest instead of suspicion. Just wanted to say thanks. You made things easier for all of us who travel with companions. David smiled and sent back a brief reply. He hadn't thought about other humans with pets facing similar issues. If the council's decision helped them too, that was worth something. Boots stretched and meowed, demanding attention. David scratched behind her ears. You know you're famous now, right? There are probably alien children learning about you in school. The mighty Earth cat who slew the terrible Silkfang. Boots purred and closed her eyes. Fame didn't interest her. Food, warmth, and affection were enough. Maybe that was the real lesson. Complex problems often had simple solutions. Don't overcomplicate relationships. Offer trust, receive loyalty. Provide care, receive companionship. Basic concepts that somehow became revolutionary when applied across species. His ship's computer beeped, indicating an incoming transmission. This one was official, bearing Earth government seals. David opened it and found a video message from someone in the Ministry of Extraterrestrial Relations. The woman on screen looked tired but pleased. Mr. Reed, I'm Director Lisa Hoffman. I've reviewed your report and the Prelian proposal. I wanted to personally thank you for your actions on Helix 7. You've opened doors we didn't know existed. The Ministry is fast-tracking several programs based on what happened. Cultural exchange initiatives, companion animal certification for space travel, even a pilot program for interspecies diplomacy training. Your instinct to bring your cat with you has had far-reaching consequences. She paused, glancing at notes. We're also establishing new protocols for human travelers with companion animals. Better support, clearer regulations, protection against discrimination. You won't be alone in this anymore. If you're interested in consulting work, we'd like to discuss possibilities. Please contact my office at your convenience. The message ended. David leaned back, overwhelmed. He had just wanted to keep his cat with him during long cargo runs. Now he was somehow involved in shaping humanity's relationships with other species. Boots sensed his mood and headbutted his hand, demanding more petting. David obliged. What do you think, girl? Should we become famous consultants? Travel the galaxy teaching aliens about Earth animals? Boots meowed. David chose to interpret that as approval. Over the next few days, more messages arrived. Research requests, interview offers, trade proposals. David responded to some and ignored others, trying to find balance between opportunity and overload. The cargo run to the outer colony went smoothly, though he noticed other beings at various stations watching Boots with new respect. At one refueling stop, a young alien approached nervously. They were small, barely reaching David's waist, with large eyes and tentacles instead of arms. Excuse me, human. Is that the famous Earth predator? This is Boots, David confirmed. Want to meet her? The young alien nodded eagerly. David set Boots down and showed them how to pet her properly. The alien's tentacles were gentle, almost reverent. Boots tolerated the attention with patient dignity. She is beautiful, the alien said. And brave. I read about Silkfang fight. Very impressive. She did what needed doing, David said. Kept someone safe. That's what good companions do. On my world, we have no such creatures, the alien said wistfully. Only small things that hide. Nothing brave. Nothing strong. Bravery isn't about size or strength, David said. It's about doing what's right even when you're scared. Your world probably has brave creatures too. You just have to look for different kinds of bravery. The young alien considered this and nodded slowly. Maybe you are correct. Thank you, human. And thank you, Boots. After they left, David reflected on that conversation. He had thought this was just about Earth animals being impressive. But maybe it was deeper than that. Maybe other species needed to be reminded that strength came in many forms, that choosing peace wasn't weakness, that bonds built on trust were stronger than bonds built on fear. 3 weeks after the Silkfang incident, David received a message from the Crystal Council leader. The new protocols for Earth animals had been implemented across all major stations. Registration was simple, permits were reasonable, and discrimination complaints had dropped significantly. Other species were even starting to bring their own traditional companions into space, inspired by the human example. You have changed the culture of our station, the message concluded. This change spreads outward. Other stations adopt similar policies. Species that never considered companion animals now discuss possibilities. You and Boots have shown us that civilization is not just about technology and trade. It is also about connections, trust, and finding common ground across differences. Thank you. David showed the message to Boots, who was busy attacking a toy mouse. She ignored the screen, focused entirely on her prey. David laughed. Famous throughout the galaxy, and she couldn't care less. That was very cat. He drafted a response accepting the consulting position. Part-time work, flexible schedule, decent pay. He could handle that while continuing his cargo runs. It would be interesting to help shape policies affecting Earth animals in space, maybe even help other humans facing challenges with their companions. As David prepared for his next cargo run, he thought about how far they had come. A few weeks ago, aliens mocked Boots as useless. Now she was a symbol of humanity's unique approach to building bridges, not through force or superiority, but through the simple act of extending trust to those who were different. Boots finished destroying her toy mouse and trotted over to David, meowing for dinner. He fed her, watching as she crunched through her food with the same focused intensity she had shown fighting the Silkfang. Predator and companion, dangerous and gentle, all at once. That duality, David realized, was what made humans interesting to other species. They existed in complicated spaces between extremes. They could appreciate violence without celebrating it. They could bond with dangerous creatures without fear. They could be tough and kind, cautious and trusting, all at the same time. Maybe that was humanity's real gift to the galaxy. The understanding that contradictions weren't weaknesses. They were opportunities. A predator could be a friend. A small creature could be mighty. A cargo hauler could change diplomatic policy. Nothing was limited to single definitions. David looked out his ship's window at the stars stretching endlessly beyond. Somewhere out there, other humans traveled with their companions. Dogs and cats and birds and who knew what else. Each one building small bridges between species, one interaction at a time. And somewhere on alien worlds, beings were having conversations about trust and friendship and the strange humans who believed different species could understand each other. Those conversations would lead to new ideas, new partnerships, new possibilities, all because one cat defended someone in danger and then went back to being a cat. Simple action, complex consequences. That seemed to sum up life pretty well. Boots finished eating and jumped into David's lap, purring contentedly. He scratched behind her ears and felt the rumble of her purr against his hand. This small, simple moment of connection, that was what mattered most. Everything else, all the fame and attention and diplomatic significance, was just noise around the edges. "Ready for the next adventure?" David asked. Boots yawned, showing her fangs, and closed her eyes. David took that as a yes. They launched from Helix 7 an hour later, heading toward the outer colonies with a hold full of cargo and a future full of possibilities. Behind them, the station continued its endless rotation, now slightly changed by their presence. Ahead, the galaxy waited with all its wonders and challenges. And in David's lap, Boots slept peacefully, unbothered by her newfound fame, content in the knowledge that she was right where she belonged. Home wasn't a planet or a station. Home was wherever her human was. That was the true lesson, the one that mattered most. Different species, different worlds, different ways of thinking, but the fundamental truth remained constant. Connection was stronger than separation, trust was braver than fear, and sometimes the smallest beings taught the greatest lessons. The stars stretched ahead, infinite and inviting. David guided his ship into the black, Boots purring in his lap, and smiled. This was life. This was good. This was enough.